Hello and welcome to Listen and Learn with Sudbury District Restorative Justice. I'm your host, MJ, and today we're going to be talking about the flight and fight trauma response. Now, I'm sure you've probably heard of this trauma response before, but just in case you haven't or want a quick refresher, let's chat about it for a minute. Fight, flight, freeze, and fawn are a collection of physical or emotional reactions to stressful, frightening, or dangerous events. These reactions come directly from your nervous system and are a direct response to things your brain perceives as threats or dangers. These responses actually date back to the time of our ancestors when they were coming face to face with dangerous animals on the daily. Essentially, what happens is your body is hijacked by a part of your brain called your amygdala. The amygdala is primarily involved in the processing of emotions and memories associated with fear. Your brain and body's natural reaction is to keep you safe. This is called self preservation. These responses are just the outcome of your brain doing its best to keep you out of harm's way as much as possible. Now that we've had a chance to refresh a little bit, let's hop right into it. The first response we'll look at today is the fight response. When an individual is feeling threatened, they may burst into fits of rage and try to attack the threat head on. Imagine this: you're walking along in a jungle and your path is blocked by a massive, hungry tiger. For some people, their brain may respond and indicate to them that they need to attack this tiger before it has a chance to attack them. If they're able to disable the threat, or better yet, eliminate it entirely, they'll be able to get back home safely. This same scenario can play out in everyday life. People who have a fight first reaction will likely lash out at whatever it is they're feeling threatened by. They want to take complete control of the situation and sort it out before they have a chance to get hurt. This can result in a physical reaction like punching, kicking, scratching, or other forms of bodily harm, or in more emotion based situations, screaming, crying, yelling, or other emotional outbursts. People who engage in this response feel the need to take control immediately so they can stop the threat from taking control of them. The next response is the flight response. When an individual is feeling threatened, they may panic and try to run as far away as possible from the threat. Let's go back to the jungle for a minute. Your path is blocked by this terrifying tiger and it's walking closer and closer and closer to you. Your palms are starting to sweat, your heart is racing, and your body is sending you absolutely all of the signals that it can to tell you to get the heck out of there and run as fast and as far as you possibly can away from the tiger. In everyday life, people with this trauma response may do exactly that. They will try to get away from or avoid the threat altogether. They usually deal with chronic stress and anxiety and will sometimes completely, quote, drop off the face of the earth at any sight of danger. Their brain is telling them that the only way to keep them safe is to get away from the threat as quickly as possible before it has the chance to hurt them. The next response is the freeze response. When an individual is feeling threatened, they may, just like a deer in the headlights, completely freeze. We're back in the jungle once more, and this tiger is baring its ginormous teeth at you and continuing to get even closer. Your body steps you dead in your tracks as you quickly realize that fighting the tiger or fleeing from it simply aren't options for you right now. So, what happens? You completely shut down. You become numb. You can't move. You can't speak. So, you end up standing there locked into the most intense staring contest of your life. People with this response usually disassociate to try and escape the threat. They will shut down mentally, physically, and emotionally. If they can't perceive the threat, or if the threat can't perceive them, then it can't truly hurt them. Their brain goes on lockdown to try and protect itself from the potential danger. The thought process behind this comes once again from the time of our ancestors who had to learn how to protect themselves from these terrifying threats every single day. The thought behind this is that if we stand totally still and don't engage with the threat, maybe it will leave us alone and move on. Finally, let's look at the fawn response. When an individual is feeling threatened, they may stand there and allow the threat to do what it needs to or barter with the threat to avoid dangerous outcomes altogether. Back into the jungle we go. You see the tiger. It is nearly face to face with you now, and you know you don't have the willpower to fight it or the energy to run away from it. But you also don't want to just stand there and do nothing either. So you decide to give the tiger the meat that you have spent all day hunting for your family to appease it so that you can have a chance to get out of there. People who react with the fawn response tend to be known as people pleasers. They will sacrifice their own thoughts, needs, and feelings to appease whatever it is that is threatening them to try and stop the danger. These individuals usually have a hard time standing up for themselves, they lack boundaries, and struggle with telling people no. They would rather try to make the situation as comfortable as possible for the other person so that they themselves don't have to deal with the dangers of what could result if they chose not to do so. And that brings us to the end of this Listen and Learn. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me today. If you want to know more, you can find us anywhere and everywhere online at RJ Sudbury. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to shoot us an email at info@sdrj.ca.